For those of you who are fortunate enough to not know me in real life, this may come as a shock to you, but I'm a massive nerd. Like, a really, really big one. And not just because I play games in all my spare time and then write about them to talk about on the internet. The nerd hole goes deeper, in fact, much deeper, to a dark place known as spreadsheets. What happens when you combine the two? Yeah, I'm doing it. It's the spreadsheet game video. This is a video that will totally just out myself, and that's okay. This is also a video where the very nature of the topic of what I'll be talking about probably won't be all that interesting to watch in the background, so here and there I may sprinkle in a bit of random game footage. So please don't come at me in the comments and tell me that Minecraft is not a game, it's a spreadsheet. So what actually am I on about when I talk about these spreadsheet games? Well, I have one main example that I've lost several thousand hours of my life to, which I'll get to later. But in essence, I think they're games that set up some sort of simulation and you're just using the game interface to interact with them. There's going to be varying levels of quote-unquote active player input, but essentially I do think the cookie will crumble in the same kind of way. But what key, I hear you ask? Don't all games technically just have coding underneath a layer of pretty graphics? And yeah, you're totally right. Anyways, on with the video. The games as a spreadsheet, I think, is one of those self-invented subgenres that I can pretty easily cast a broad net and point at random games and tell them, yep, too bad, you're part of this genre now. Enjoy. To hone in on a bit more though, I generally think that these are games where the actual moment-to-moment gameplay expected of the player is a little bit less. And instead the player will peruse the menus at their own pace to dig up information and take actions via buttons in those menus. Some might say that it falls into the category of dad games, but I don't think there are enough CRPGs and truck driving games to quite make it squeeze into that category. I'm not going to lie, I do think there is a pretty major overlap though. You can kind of see how this might be a bit tricky to fit into a clear definition. But yet, somehow, these are the games that make my brain wrinkles tickle in just the right kind of way. I have no idea why, but if you let me play your game through menus to make an arbitrary number go up, I'll wake up 2 weeks later and realise I have 1,000 hours extra in my Steam library, seemingly out of nowhere. Strangely, what actually gave me the idea for this video was messing around with all my different castles and settlements in Mountain Blade Bannerlord. I had just joined a very successful Britannian faction, and were pretty easily sweeping through the Vlandian lands, which of course led to constant peace treaties where they would pay us to not beat them up further for a couple of weeks. In these couple of weeks of peace, with an already pretty established army, I didn't really have much to do apart from just sit in my castle and manage my different settlements. I must have done about an hour of this where I realised, hang on, this game is literally about leading troops headfirst in a battle as you issue on-the-fly tactical commands and battle enemies in hand-to-hand combat. But why am I sitting here enjoying clicking through the menus so much just to make sure I can finish my granary project in 7 days instead of 11? Why is squeezing up my poor peasants for as much food production as possible so fascinating to me in this game where I can literally swing a warhammer and smash some skulls? Thinking on it further, I had amassed my initial fortune on this save file by engaging in the trading mechanics in the game. Pretty simple stuff really, but it's mostly buy low and sell high. Different regions produce different things, so you have to travel around a bit. But yeah, it does boil down to high green number is good and low red number is bad. And yeah, I chose this form of progression in a game about combat and glory. You seeing where I'm going with this now? I tend to do this all the time, and I'm sure some people will say that it takes the fun out of games by getting stuck into the details so much. And in some cases I don't disagree, but that's the beauty of video games. As long as I'm not ruining someone's multiplayer experience, who cares what I do in the game? I'll be the first to admit that subgenres are a strange little concept that us gamers never really needed to come up with, but here we are. Just browse through Steam and you'll see a bunch of user-generated tags that don't really need to be there, but they are. And honestly, I do think we are better for it. People just like to make sure everything fits into a box and a category, and I'm sure that's just basic human nature. In a world so inundated with information vying for our attention, I think the games industry is the same, honestly. Between the blockbuster titles that usually snatch away most people's attention, you have so many smaller indies and double A's vying for your wallet. If you're a fan of a certain genre, say the Souls-like genre, you're going to want to try and dig up games fitting that theme between the next big FromSoft or Team Ninja release. I totally get that this is probably the one that receives the most scoffs, but honestly, if people didn't throw around the Souls-like subgenre concept, would Lies of P have picked up as much steam as it did? Or to take it that one step further, I guarantee you most non-Souls-like fans watching this video probably haven't heard of Thymesia or Enotria. But I reckon people who want to immerse themselves in that gamer-made subgenre definitely have, and are probably keeping an eye out for more in that same sort of field. See? I think people look at all these labels for our games and say they're unnecessary, but honestly, I think it's a core part of how games can be discovered and land into the target audience's lap. We have just so many different takes on genres that the lines between roguelite and roguelike have blurred, and a deck builder is all of a sudden 17 different games put into one. This lets you really hone in on what you as a gamer actually like and enjoy. I do think this topic is worth a whole video in its own right, but I'm sure plenty of people much smarter than me have had plenty to say already. Games as a Spreadsheet, in my opinion, is the sort of subgenre that rewards players for wanting to take the time investigating all of the data and game systems that are available. The whole game and its information is more or less laid out for the player, and then it just becomes a skill that is developed to try and look at these things up or know where to dig in order to find the right kind of information. It's rewarding in a weird little way. I've sort of touched on it earlier in this video, and I do believe that the presentation is another key aspect of this whole concept. The game would generally be a bit more static in its appearance, in its resting phase, but it would ramp up at the player's discretion. Speed controls are usually the main way that it would do this, but some games have creative ways in ensuring that things still feel interesting and engaging, even if you're just staring at technically a bunch of numbers behind a pretty layer. And now it's time for the part of the video that I really establish myself as a sad little nerd, if I haven't already. In my opinion, the ultimate spreadsheet experience comes from the Football Manager series. Now, before you roll your eyes and click off this video because of sports, just hear me out. Look at this footage that I've pulled up on screen. Is this not just the ultimate spreadsheet experience? Look at all these different color numbers as they get higher and higher. How good is this? Yeah, okay, look, I'm not fooling anyone, but trust me. Once you get that feeling of buying an obscure player for scraps, only for them to go on and make you a net profit of $5 million for your struggling club that was relying on this sort of money to keep the lights on, yeah, nothing else in gaming hits quite the same, trust me. And now for the icing on the cake. Have a look at this. Yep, you're right. This is a spreadsheet that I made based on my spreadsheet game. Because the spreadsheets that the game gave me just weren't enough, apparently. I know I'm not alone in this world, trust me. The deeper you go into the Football Manager community, you realise that the community is split between master tacticians and massive dweebs who love making number go up. No prizes for guessing which side I fall into. Okay, you can open the video tab again. The sports are now hidden. And while you're here, take a look at these hours that I've clocked up on Steam. We truly do live in a gamer society, and I just happen to find the games that speak straight to my soul. Genuinely, there have been times I've actually had to warn my girlfriend I'm getting back into Football Manager, and then I may disappear for hours at a time, if not years. Far too many working days have been started with 4 hours of sleep thanks to this little ball kicking simulator. There has literally been times where I've fallen asleep at my desk playing this game, suffering from the one more turn state of mind. I've probably not yet convinced you why it's such an interesting topic that warrants its own video, have I? It's hard to put my finger on exactly why this is appealing. Honestly, I think part of it just appeals to my Game Boy kid brain. as a lot of these games let me click a couple of things, wait for the simulation to take place, and then watch a live stream or YouTube video on my second monitor. Pretty similar to how I'd be sitting on the couch, watching Pokemon, playing Pokemon, and spamming A to try and catch that random bird that I don't care about or don't remember at all. I think another part of why I like these games is that they're often so flexible in stopping and starting. There is no waiting for a 2-minute cutscene to end. There's no panic in pausing it. It just keeps rolling and the numbers keep going up. But at all times, the agency is with me to hit pause or not hit continue. I think these video games are also deceptively complex, but can also turn out to be quite beginner friendly. I feel like a lot of these games will always have a handful of dedicated YouTubers that are constantly churning out videos on the game, no matter how niche. I know I've definitely racked up several hours of watch time on some of the most obscure channels dedicated to the most random of games. And I know these YouTubers never really get their flowers, but let me tell you now, your work does not go unnoticed. I love you all. But I can also see the other side of the argument, where a bunch of numbers that don't really have a tactile or clear feedback as to why the high number is better may not be that interesting, or potentially could be pretty overwhelming. There's a reason you never see these spreadsheet games on the sizzle reel at the Game of the Year awards, despite how many millions and millions of players bought their games and play daily. These sorts of games are just not really attractive to the general audience, but don't worry. I love them for their personality and how time just seems to disappear when I'm with them. At the end of the day, I do think it really comes down to just our basic human instincts. Humanity is always looking for more is better. You do it when you play RPGs without even thinking. I know that I'm always the first to throw away the sword of 1,000 deaths I've been using for the past 11 hours if I pick up a sword of 1,000 deaths plus 1. Apply this same mindset to an economic simulation game. As us humans just want to see the number go up, it's good to have the high number in case something goes wrong, right? This little arbitrary pixelated nest egg won't grow itself. If you think that this video has helped hook you into the spreadsheet gamer army, I have a few other suggestions that you may or may not have heard of. The grand strategy map games like Europa Universalis 4, Crusader Kings 3 and Stellaris surely fit into this category. And the difference is, instead of number go up, it's paint the map my colour. But again, it's all about clicking through the menus to work out how to squeeze the best out of your generals and milk the provinces or planets for all they're worth. On the same kind of sports kick as Football Manager, you've got F1 Manager and Out of the Park Baseball. I've not played either of these games, so I can't attest to their quality, but a sports spreadsheet game is a sports spreadsheet game. You've all seen Moneyball, right? Just do that. A smaller bite-sized indie game that I really enjoyed my time with was Merchant of the Skies. Again, in this game you navigate the world to visit different islands, which essentially acts like your menus. You can set up production chains on that sandy island to make glass and bring in the money. You plan your trading trips around how much fuel you have and how fuel efficient your ship can be. Speaking of planning routes to maximise profits, you've also got Transport Fever doing the same sort of thing. Sure, you place train tracks, but after you do that, you're sifting through the menus to try and find the train that has the lowest operating cost and the most return on profit. Another game that I fell deep into the void playing and emerged a couple weeks later with hundreds of extra hours was Software Inc. Obviously a bit loose with the definition of spreadsheet game, but by the time you've built up your offices and you're into the mid to end game, you spend a lot of time in spreadsheets making sure your billion-dollar corporation is nickel and diming the wages appropriately. Something, living in a society. Once again, money number goes up. Big Ambitions, another tycoon empire building game, same sort of deal. Your character acts as your mouse, navigating the menus as you head to different jobs to make money number go up. Doesn't quite fit the definition? Yeah, look, probably. But I'm happy to park the tycoon games as a sister subgenre in this totally made up game classification that I've got going on in my head. Lastly, I've mostly accumulated my pile of shame in spreadsheets through going through the simulation or management tag in Steam, and every now and then they have a sale that is aimed at these sorts of genres. It's worth a look if you're keen on it. Gonna be honest with everyone who is thankfully still watching. It's a bit of a chaotic video, this one, because I just wanted to throw all my thoughts down into one place. As you can probably see, a lot of these thoughts that I've laid out don't really make sense, but I hope you're able to work out the spirit of what I meant by games as a spreadsheet. It's all about making that number go up, and doing it through a series of menus and a little bit less engaged gameplay style. It's not exactly the most riveting of content, but I think the moral of the story here is that there are some random niche subgenres out there that just happen to click with people. If you know, you know. Against my better judgment, please do sound off in the comments if you have any other examples of these spreadsheet games that would make a fine addition to my collection. As usual, if you've enjoyed this content, please do feel free to drop a like and leave a comment. And if you want to see some more and aren't too confused with how my brain works, subscribe so you can see some more. And as always, I'm always looking to improve, so if you have constructive feedback, please do also let me know. Have a great day and keep on gaming.